is about time management for, of course, college success. So I'm happy to introduce our Assistant Cultural Affairs Officer, Ms. Elizabeth Liu, who will be giving us her welcome remarks. Please.
Hi, good afternoon. How's everyone doing today? Good. Okay. You just finished exams? Oh, that's great. Congratulations. Are you going to go party now? Eat a lot of food? Celebrate with your friends? That's great. So, everyone here is in high school, right? No? College. Okay. Some college, some high school. So, who is interested in maybe studying in the United States someday? Everybody, yeah. Grad school, undergrad, study abroad, lots of opportunities. Fantastic. And who's heard of Education USA? No one. Okay, well, that's great because we have some Education USA experts here to share with you information about our programs. Education USA is a free advising service that U.S. embassies across the world and 170 countries worldwide provide. And it includes accurate, comprehensive, and current information to prospective students interested in studying the U.S. They can help you think about where you want to go, what kind of school is a good fit for you, how do you apply, all of these things, the tests that you need to take to prepare to study in the US. They're there to answer your questions and there to help. And they'll be talking to you in a little bit. Today, we have some special guest speakers for you. This is actually really rare that we have US students here at the embassy. So, this is fantastic. And I'll allow them to introduce themselves in a little bit because I haven't formally met them. My name's Liz. Hi. They're here from Pennsylvania State University, which is a great university among many in the U.S. I like University of Florida. That's where I went. Go Gators. Yeah. Oh, we have some Gators in the back. Yay. So if you want to go somewhere with a similar climate to the Philippines, because you don't want to, freeze your butt off every winter, then I think you should consider Florida for sure. Um, but anyway, today's a really great enrichment series that we have for you. This is a series um, wherein each time we talk about different topics that's relevant to students. And this one is really awesome, I think, because it's about time management. And this applies not only to college, but to high school, to everyday life, to your professional life. So, no matter what you end up doing, I hope that you'll be able to use the information that you learned today. Time management is extremely important. It's a skill that most people need to make the most out of their personal and professional lives. And so, with that said, I'd like to welcome you again to the U.S. Embassy, and I hope you enjoy today's program.
Thank you so much, Ms. Liz. So, okay, so we'll be starting our panel of question and answers. By the way, we also have a live audience who are watching us right now, and we're gathering their questions. So I'm gonna turn the floor to Irene. Irene Leoncio is one of our Education USA advisor. She will be doing she will be moderating the question and answers. So
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon. That's good afternoon in Filipino. Again, welcome here in Manila and welcome to the US Embassy, our incoming probably college and some current college students here. So I'll throw in some questions first to our guests, and then later on, if you have questions, just feel free to raise your hand. Since our topic is about so we'll introduce ourselves first. Sorry, I just became so excited because I think I'm also going to benefit from this topic. This is something that everyone of us needs, especially here in Manila. I'm sure you've seen the not so good traffic situation here. We need to do a better job in managing our time as well. So let's just have that round of introduction. Please say your name. What year are you in? What are you studying? And perhaps what's like your impression of Manila so far?
I'm Rachel. I'm a junior, third year biological sciences and health professions major. and I'm planning to attend physician's assistant school, which is a master's program. You guys don't have them in your healthcare system, but it's below a doctor, like assistant to a physician. Hence the name. And my impressions of Manila are it's very different from the United States, but in a good way. It's snowing at home, so we like the heat here. And the traffic is a lot, but it's a lot of time to take in the scenery. So we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, yeah. So my name's Matthew. I'm a third year health policy student, along with others, pre medical. So hoping to go to medical school following my undergraduate degree. I'm from Hershey, PA, which is Hershey chocolate. If you guys are familiar with that. And as far as my impressions, I just love how everyone's like so smiley here. So we're from back home, especially walking to class, no one really says anything to each other. We kind of just walk to class, but here, pretty much everyone says hello. So
Thank you, Matthew.
My name's Christine. I'm a junior at Penn State, third year. My major is health administration and a minor in economics. Um, and about Manila, I really love the weather. It's so nice to get away from the cold. So I've been got my tan on too. So that's great.
Thank you, Christine.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I am a fifth year student getting my master's in healthcare administration, and I got my undergrad in health policy administration. And what I like about Manila, I think I'd have to agree with Matt. I like how friendly everyone is and like genuinely interested in getting to know us.
So thank you very much. We'll try to get to know more about them as we go through this session this afternoon. So I'll throw in the first question, but along the way, if you have some thoughts, please feel free to raise your hand. I know you're like third year or fourth year or fifth year students. I would like you guys to recollect how is it like during your freshman year and how you manage your time in the transition come from high school going to college. And if you can just turn back time, what could have you done differently to manage your time better?
Okay, so I think a big difference that we've observed with college students here in the Philippines versus America is just kind of the individualism, I guess. Like in high school, we are very guided with our work and how to manage your time and your activities. When you get to college in America, you're extremely independent and completely not on your own. There's lots of support, but you're the one that's driving the car. So it was a huge adjustment to go from kind of having my hand held to being the person to direct all of my activities and grades and assignments. So it took a little while to kind of understand how much time you have for school, how much time you have to sleep, how much time you have to eat, and how much time you have to have fun. And it's definitely a trial and error process, but you're the only person that makes those decisions. So that was my biggest kind of transition period for sure. And I'm still not sure that we have the ratio down, but you work on it.
yeah. So on top of that, I guess as far as like physical time in high school, we would attend class. I'd say from like 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Whereas in college, it varies a lot. I could go. I could have 50 minutes of class in one day, and that could be it. So a bunch of free time. Hopefully, I'm doing a lot of work in that time, but obviously, you can find yourself doing some other things. So it's important to kind of like stay on top of yourself.
Yeah, I'd say the main difference from high school to college is that I needed to learn how to study properly for myself. In high school, I never really studied. I didn't find the need to, I guess. But in college, you really have to learn how to take notes your way. I mean, it differs for all of us, but I mean, note cards, rewriting notes is very useful. So I would just say find your best way to study. So.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's definitely a trial and error process. It takes a while to figure out the way that is best for you. But I say probably the most important advice that I would have for a freshman is don't stress out about it. You're not gonna get it right the first time. So it may take a little while to figure out how you study or what works best for you. Whether you're a morning person and like to wake up in the morning and do your work, or sleep in and do your work later in the afternoon. It's definitely individualized, and you have to figure out what works best for you.
Anyone would like to throw in a question? Okay.
Please approach the microphone here.
Say your name and state your question.
My name is Charlotte. I would just like to ask, what do you suggest as for us high school students right now, what do you suggest that we do as preparation for the transition period that we're going to go through in college? Thank you. We're third year high school. I mean, yeah, basically we're freshmen because the education system here, we're all like 15-year-olds. So thank you.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it sounds like you're like pretty early in the process. So as far as technical things that you might want to do, I'm not so sure, but I just think overall, um, kind of like understand yourself. These guys are saying you kind of have to find your own way to study, and I think right now it's probably most important for you guys. I personally found, what I enjoyed, how I studied basically in high school, and I think that allowed me to hit the ground running when I got to college. I didn't have to focus as much on how I wanted to study. It was more of the social aspects of school. I think that really helped.
Um, I guess whenever you get to college, I say the best thing to do is really get involved, and like branch out, join different clubs, get involved in different opportunities because that's where you'll find your friend group, and it's a really good experience.
Yeah, so I'd say kind of going off that, kind of start looking into what you may be interested in. Look into different schools if you do want to come over to the US. Look at different schools, what maybe programs they have to offer, what you would like to study. If you know one day you want to be a doctor or one day you want to be a business person, see what kind of programs the schools have to offer that fit what you want to do.
Kind of going off her point, keep a really open mind. I think it's good to have a plan going in, but I was so dead set on one goal, and I think that I kind of closed other doors because I was so set on that one, being a doctor, and all I wanted to do was be a doctor. And I think that if you can let yourself have a plan, but also be flexible along the way as you apply and research different programs and a bunch of clubs and stuff like that, there's a pretty good chance you're going to change your mind once you get there. So just kind of be open to that ahead of time and be looking at a lot of things, not just one thing. And I finally found what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and it's a good feeling, but it's definitely a long time coming. So be open to things.
Questions from the audience? Okay, so we have a question here. It's the old-fashioned tweet question.
Okay, so this is a question from our online audience. Does blend learning platform like Moodle, Edmundo, etc. of instruction work with college students, especially when it comes to science or math subjects? Blend learning.
So wait, like online tutorials, is that Edmundo's like the knee surgery online, right? Okay, so I do a lot of that stuff because I'm a science major. I definitely think that online learning assistance is useful for sure, but I also think that kind of one-on-one time with professors is definitely a more direct way of knowing, because a lot of times there's too much information on the internet and you're responsible for knowing what your professor is asking of you. And then when you get on like Wikipedia or like sites like Edmundo and stuff like that, it can get a little bit more specific or less specific than your professor's looking for. So it's definitely a good study tool, but I would not rely heavily on that. Usually, the material that the professors require on the syllabus at the beginning of the semester are going to be your biggest keys to success, and sticking to those platforms is probably the best move. And then you can use other supplemental things online to kind of fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I think size of school is really important when discussing online learning as well. So Penn State's a very big school. So my first year, you kind of find out like we have this thing called Angel, which is basically like an online platform for all of your classes. So my first year, it was pretty surprising to learn that there was a bunch of stuff online. You can really fall behind if you're not, checking up on that. Whereas with a smaller school, it might be less focused on online learning. So you kind of have to find what you would prefer and maybe pick a school size based upon that preference.
Any questions from the audience? Otherwise, I'll throw in a question. None at this point. Okay, so I'll throw in a question to the audience first. Can someone explain what Filipino time is to our audience? That's like a metaphor we use to describe how culturally um, we see time or manage our time here in the Philippines.
So Filipino time is it's a term here in the Philippines where, um, for example, we set a time. like yeah, today. Anyway, we set a time for this certain event. For example, there's a party at like 7 p.m. and it's a term called Filipino time because most Filipinos go to the party at 7:30 or 8 p.m. or even more than that. So this is why every time there's an event, we have to set it like an hour or 30 minutes earlier so that everyone would be there at the time you actually set in the beginning. So that's Filipino time.
Can someone explain how American values time?
Not like that. um, Maybe outside of the classroom, but for the most part, it's kind of considered disrespectful to professors to be late for class. If you have an exam and you're more than 15 minutes late, all my professors won't even let you take the exam. So it is kind of a sign of respect to be punctual and alert and on time. And it's so awkward when somebody walks in the classroom like 30 minutes late, like every head whips to the back and watches you sulk down the aisle to your seat. So definitely try to get on time before you come to America for college.
There's also a saying a lot of like people use that if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. So, in a lot of like professional settings or classroom settings, a lot of people expect that if you're not early, you're actually late.
Okay, yeah. So I would say there are some similar, like socially, we kind of have the same thing. Whereas like, if there's like a party or something at 8, like people won't show up for an hour, like until 9. So that's similar. But like these guys have been saying for class, you definitely want to be on time. Like one-on-ones, as far as meeting with your professor, you definitely want to be on time. And obviously, there's some special cases where you might be running 5, 10 minutes late, but that's kind of the extent of it.
Yeah, my freshman year, I had a professor that would lock the door right at the like 8 o'clock when I had to be in class, and if you were in class, you missed it. And attendance was graded. So, I mean, a lot of classes do take attendance as well, and they usually take it at the beginning of the class. So, if you end up showing up late, you won't get the points for the attendance grade. So, it is important.
So that being said, since most of you are considering to study in the US, there's also cultural context to time and time management and how different cultures view time. So that may be a good contrast to a perspective change should you want to pursue studying in the US. Questions? Other questions? Okay. Please state your name and then your question.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rain, and I'm actually a college student already. So I have a question about your graduate studies. Yes, so was it hard for you to transition from the undergraduate to graduate studies, and were there any major differences in your time among the two? Thank you.
So I would definitely say there was a kind of a transition with the amount of workload. I think in undergraduate studies, there's definitely more work than in high school per se, but I think you could kind of get by with maybe doing like the bare minimum, they say, or like only skimming the pages. But I think in grad school, there's a lot more reading. You definitely have to be more attentive, think more critically about your assignments, not just go to class and kind of have an idea. You have to be more prepared. So I think that was one of the biggest transitions for me, just kind of turning like by thinking, changing a little bit, thinking more critically about what I was actually reading, what I was learning in the classroom, and kind of applying that to the real world.
I'd just like to build on that because I also took my undergrad here in Manila and then I went to the US for my master's. I think in relation to time management, the biggest difference is at master's level, you have a lot of adult responsibilities other than going to school and studying. So in the context of time management, you have to literally juggle being an adult because in somewhat in undergrad, you're still being seen as a student. So it's a totally shift when it comes to time management because you may be working part time, you maybe dealing with adult responsibilities on the side as well. And your classmates also are going through adult transition. So there's a lot of difference when it comes to time management at master's level.
I think kind of just adding on to that as well. A lot of people in my graduate program, we kind of try to do the mentality of we are in class like 8 to 5, like it's a normal work day. And then when we go home, we can either have time with our family because some people have kid children, or that's kind of a time you can use to yourself to make dinner, to hang out with friends. So kind of try and use the 8 to 5 as your work day, doing your studies, and then go home and you don't have to do much work.
Hi, my name is Zach. My question is, when you guys finished high school and graduated, was there anything you regretted or wish you had done to prepare more for college? And can you give us any tips on what we really should be doing now?
Um, Kind of going back to what I said before, I really just wish I would have studied more. I feel like I could have applied to many different schools and um, I don't know, maybe just a top school. I mean, Penn State is a top school, but I went to a branch at first. So I feel like if I would have tried harder, I would have went to main campus first instead of a branch. So I'd really suggest, like like I said earlier, just finding yourself and the way you study.
I think I would have to agree with what Rachel said previously, just kind of keeping your options open when it comes to like applying to schools and looking at schools. Don't be so set on one specific school that you want to go to. Really explore your options and keep them open, and don't get set on one thing.
This is like not necessarily academically related, but I was a really big volleyball player in high school, and that was my thing. And I kind of gave it up when I went to college. And I think it's really important to have outlets outside of school. So we're in school, we study all the time, and then we go to these clubs that talk about what we've been studying all day, and then we go to these interviews for things that we've learned. And sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in school, but keeping some of your passions from high school and bringing them over to college. And even like Filipino cultures, like there's a lot of like international presence at our school, so definitely keep things like close to home with you and don't give up on like the things that make you happy here and like before school, because it's a good distraction.
Yeah, on top of that, just keeping an open mind, I would say in college, I've learned to say like yes to more things than in high school. So I guess if you're more of a shy person, maybe before you get to college, try to open up a little bit because like the best experience I've had in college stem from these maybe saying yes to things that I wouldn't have said yes to in high school.
Another questions from Facebook. Uh, what what are the professors like in the US? And then another question is, what is the classroom environment like?
Okay, so I'd say the professors in college are more open than I thought they would be to communication. So my first and second year, I didn't really, I guess first year didn't, I kind of treated them as a figurehead and didn't really get to know them as well. And then when you start accepting them as almost like a friend, I would say, that's when you can really learn from them on like a personal level as well. The second question was the classroom environment. So that really varies from school to school. As I mentioned, Penn State's a really large school, so we could have classes that have 700 kids in the class at one time, which is a lot bigger than normal. And then you can have classes that are like 15 kids. So wide variety there.
Yeah, I was in a class that had 6 students total at one point, and I was in a class that had 350 students. But I strongly recommend in either of those classes that you still reach out to the professor, still go to office hours, seek help if you need it, because that's really essential. And plus, it's just a way to connect with your professor.
I think a big thing that I've learned and I'm still learning as each semester goes by is to form your own opinions about professors. A lot of professors will get a bad rap for evidently no reason sometimes, or a good rap, and you just happen to not like get along with that specific person. So I think going into each course with an open mind and wanting to make that relationship with your professor is the best way to go. But reading around online about like Dr. Joe and we don't like him, blah blah blah, can really kind of give you a negative attitude towards a course to begin with, and that sets like a lot of students back. And for classroom environment, it totally depends. Like my classes are huge because my major is really big, but that, I'm okay with that. I like teaching myself things. But again, that's going to kind of vary by school. But if you have a specific learning style that works well for you, you should definitely take that into consideration when you're selecting a school because it can be make or break for a lot of students.
Kind of going off of that, a lot of my undergraduate classes were a little bit bigger, like there were maybe 100 people in a class. And I think in those big class settings, I kind of sometimes was afraid to raise my hand. But in smaller settings, like I now, my graduate program only has 20 people in it. So it's a lot more personalized and we get to know the professors really well. And I kind of regretted not doing that when I was in undergrad. Even though it was a big class, you could still reach out to your professor and get to know them and have them get to know you. So I definitely say do that, start early, doing that when you're a freshman or sophomore, and don't wait until you get to graduate school to do that.
Questions from our audience? I'd just like to add a thought on that because I can contrast because I took my master's in the US. I think one big classroom difference as well is culture within the classroom setup is the the degree of or the degree that the students would share or recite on class. Culturally, in the Philippines, we kind of tend to be more quiet. We're not used to really, raise our hands more than three, four times in one class. Whereas coming to the US, I realized that it's okay to be really outspoken and try to tell what's on your mind and share it to a bigger group. I think that's one big classroom cultural adjustment that I went through coming from the Manila setup, going to the US where people or my classmates are more vocal about their thoughts. Questions from our audience? More questions? Go ahead.
Regarding time management, um, right now, basing on personal experience, we already experience times when we don't have to we can't sleep because there are so many activities that we have to do, and then we have to worry about um, the homework and then academics and everything else, and we're just 15-year-olds and um, not like not being able to sleep, and then somehow neglecting your health already just to get high grades and everything. um, and is that bad time management, or is it actually a good preparation for you when you go to college?
I'm the world's biggest proponent on sleep because I get crazy if I don't sleep and I watch it every day with a lot of my peers. I think that making your health comes first and that if you're not healthy then it's a waste of time being there. Like if you can't be 100% and you can't do your assignments well or your exams well or be in class, then what's the point? So I don't think that kind of stretching yourself too thin is a bad thing, but you do have to sustain life. So you do need to be able to like be healthy and focus on your studies and not your health. And that kind of is your own responsibility, and finding the balance is important.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Rachel. I love my sleep and I hate when I have to stay up late at night to do work or study. I can't function the next day. So, I mean, like I said earlier, I try to do my work early in the day or early in the afternoon so I don't have to worry about staying up late at night. I mean, like I said, some people study better later at night, but I definitely think if you're stressed out and you're staying up too late and then you're stressed the next day, it's not good for you and you can't do your best on your assignments. So it's kind of trying to find a good balance between when you have to stay up and when you can get something done earlier in the day and you can have time to relax.
Yeah, I would say it definitely comes in waves as well. So I might have like three exams in a class throughout the semester. So exam time rolls around and you do have those sleepless nights. But overall, if you stay on top of your work in college, you can get by with a fairly decent amount of sleep.
Yeah, I'd say sleep is pretty essential. And I feel like the professors kind of help you in the beginning because they give you like a course schedule for the whole semester. So you can kind of like map out what you'll need to do on like a week by week basis, which is what I do. And it helps me a lot. So like I make to do lists for each week. And I'll say, okay, I have an exam on Monday and I have like this homework due on Wednesday. And I just kind of like focus my schedule around that. So, I mean, at Penn State and other schools, other universities, they do offer like course schedules that help you and you'll be able to manage with sleep and stuff.
We have questions from the audience. I'm gonna force. We have questions. 'Cause this is the typical classroom setup. In the Philippines, we need to force people to speak. Now, I'm just joking. So I can see that you're kind curious about our topic today. So what's on your mind?
Um, what's an average day like, for example, on Monday? For example, when you go to school on Monday, what do you do in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening?
Well, I think for each of us, it kind of varies by semester because it determines like what time our classes are. I mean, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I don't have class until 2:30 in the afternoon. So I wake up and try to exercise because that really helps me like focus and de-stress myself. So and then after class it ends around about 4:30 and then I just work on some homework, make dinner and relax. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, so it definitely does vary, as Christine said. So my Monday starts at around 10 o'clock, and then I have two classes that day, ending at 2:30. So wake up at 9 o'clock, grab some breakfast, go to two classes, and then after classes when your free time hits. So like Christine said, you can work out, you can study. You don't have really homework due the next day. A bunch of free time to like pretty much do whatever you want. Obviously, you want to prepare for the week, but I think it's definitely important to utilize that free time for some of your hobbies or clubs as well.
So, like Christine, I only have one class or meeting on Monday around 11 o'clock. So I wake up, I try to go to the gym or work out. I go to my meeting, and then it's basically free time for the rest of the day. But I like to start my Monday like knowing what I have for the rest of the week. So I make a to do list on my computer. And even if I don't have anything to do that certain day, at least I'm organized for the rest of the week, and then I can kind of just relax the rest of the night and prepare myself for the week or hang out with friends.
Hate to be the dark cloud, but my Mondays are horrible. It's the worst day of the week for me. I have class from like 10:10 till 4:30 with no breaks. It's not fun. But I kind of like it, I guess, because it kind of forces me to get going for the week. Because if you have like another Sunday, basically on Monday, it just makes Tuesday horrible too. So I get going on Monday, do everything I can, and then by Monday night, I just wish it was Friday. But I just varies per student, and like so Mondays is my worst day, and then I have lighter days throughout the week. So you'll figure it out.
Okay, we have another question here from our live audience.
Hi, my name's Aaron. Regarding kind of time management and social life, uh, how do you manage being with your friends and also studying with them? If in case your friends also study with you, how do you um, divide your time between your studies, between your friends, between your hobbies? Basically, yeah, your days.
There's no good answer to that.
um, that's a tough question because everyone varies. Personally, I like to study by myself. I don't like a lot of other people in the room. I can't concentrate. Um, but I still love hanging out with my friends. I love having social time. So I mean, I've said this multiple times, but I try and do my own stuff, do my studying. If I have to go to the library, if I have to be in a quiet room, I do that. And then maybe I can go sit at a coffee shop or something with my friends while they do their work, and I can kind of just look at my email or hang out. But I definitely think it varies. Some people like studying in groups and like going to the library and talking with people as they study. But I think it's important to find a balance between studying and having an outlet with your friends, going out for dinner, hanging out with them, or having like a club that you're really involved in. Like I really enjoy this club that I'm in, and it's not related to school at all. So I like having different outlets between friends and clubs.
I also think too that there's different settings for different types of work that you have. So there might be some assignments that would be great to do in a group setting to have like collaborative ideas and talk through whatever the assignment is. But there's also things that you have to be aware that are individualistic, and that if you can kind of get caught up in the group, and if the group knows the information but you specifically don't know the information, it can kind of nip you in the butt come test time. So I'm a solo studier too, and that's just because I feel like I can get the most done by myself and then have the most time to hang out with my friends.
Yeah, I leave hanging out with friends on the weekend. I don't know. I just find it during the week, I get caught up in work and don't really have the time to hang out with my friends. And I definitely do not study with them just because I start writing a paper and then I sit and talk to them for 2.5 hours, and the only thing I have on the paper is my name. So just cannot study with friends.
Yeah, so like they said, it varies. I'm a big proponent of studying with friends. Actually, in high school, I kind of went solo, and just stress levels were higher, I would say. So I found that studying with other people kind of helps me relax. Um, I would say like big exams, you have to study alone. It's pretty much impossible to focus that hard on an exam when your friends are around. But in terms of like writing a paper or doing like a group worksheet, I would almost prefer that.
Do you have any follow up question for them? How about you? Are you a solo studier, or do you want to hang out with friends?
Uh, I'd like to actually want I'm gonna agree with Matt. Um, in these kinds of small exams, or like little exams, I'd rather be with friends, because we like sharing information. Sometimes we don't take notes. I mean, we couldn't take the notes on some slides of of the presentation, so we kind of share these information so that we could be sure on what on these kinds of exams. But um, also on the bigger exams, we also tend to study half of the time with the friends and also half of the time by ourselves, so that we could go repeat on the topic as much as we can and focus on it.
It's like you're with a very good group of friends who influence you really well to study hard. Okay, we have a question here from Facebook. I'm just going to read it. Filipinos can be shy. Any tips for college, especially since American seems outgoing?
Yeah, so as I said before, you really just have to be open to almost anything. I understand that you might be shy, and I was definitely shy coming into school, but almost did a 180. And I'd say college changes you. You have to change your mindset, but I don't know. Like the environment will force you to be social. So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
The beautiful thing about college is that everyone shows up on day one with zero friends. Every single person has no friends when they get to college. So everyone's looking for friends and everyone wants to meet new people. And everything, all the dorms are set up to meet new people, all the clubs are set up to meet new people. So don't think that you're the only one that doesn't know anyone. And just because you're from a different country doesn't mean A, that there's not people from your country or from a different country in the same boat. Or us Americans, I didn't have any friends when I showed up to college. I go to college 4 hours away from my house. So all of my friends are elsewhere, all my family's elsewhere, and that's pretty much true for everyone here. So everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah, I definitely live by the saying, you don't know if you don't try. And I've definitely met a lot of cool people and have created long lasting friendships just by branching out and meeting others. So I definitely would just reach out, try new things, get out of your comfort zone, most definitely.
Another good thing about a lot of universities is they have like involvement fairs, like for coming in freshmen or new people. So you can go and see all of the different things the school has to offer, all of the people you could meet. I remember my first year, I went and signed up for probably like every club that was there. And then I realized I got like 100 new emails and I didn't want to be in every club. But I went to a few different meetings to try and figure out which group or which club I wanted to join, And some of them I stuck with, some of them I didn't. But it's an awesome way to meet people that are in the same boat as you.
We have another question here from our audience.
Um, so did any of you had a part-time job while you were in college, and how were you able to manage your time during that period? And also, how's the cultural diversity in Penn State?
I'm a teaching assistant, so I get paid for that, and that's like about 10 hours out of my week. So I guess that would be a part-time job. Um, it's definitely I love being a teaching assistant, so that means you assist a professor, and so I like have my own section that I teach students, some of which are my own age. So it's a great leadership opportunity, and it's definitely something that stands out on a resume. Being able to juggle a lot of things in college is something that employers and grad schools really look for, because everyone applying for jobs and everyone going to grad school is smart. So the more you can do gracefully at the same time as getting good grades, is something that is really valuable. So it's totally doable and it looks good.
Yeah, there was one semester where I had an internship and I was also a full-time student and I was working like 36 hours a week. So, I mean, that semester was pretty stressful, but like I said before, you just have to I just kind of make to-do lists and that really helps me, and I say, okay, I work at this time and school's at this time. I can get homework done at this time. So, it's just kind of managing your schedule on a weekly basis or a day-by-day basis.
Yeah, so I was a research assistant for a semester and a half, I guess 2 semesters. Kind of like the teaching assistant position. It's nice to integrate some type of job within academics, because then it's not as much of a disconnect between the two. I found I have a lot of friends who have like part-time jobs that aren't integrated with school, and I will say I find it a little bit harder. Like they find it a little bit harder with a disconnect in terms of time management, but it's definitely doable. And what was your second question? Cul- yeah, so Penn State has like cultural diversity is huge at our school. I'd say more than any other school in Pennsylvania, pretty high. So yeah, everyone's accepted. It's awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't going to address the job because I have never really had a part-time job aside from babysitting, which isn't very rigorous or anything. But as far as cultural diversity, obviously Penn State's a very large school, so people come from all over the world. So that's one of the I mean, one of the good things about going to such a large school. There's so much diversity. There's so many different people that you have the opportunity to meet.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I have a question. How do the international students get involved on the campus?
Yeah, I'd say just like everyone else, as Rachel said, everyone kind of starts in the same day one. They start at the same point. So as far as international students being involved, I'd say it's very similar to us getting involved. You just have to put yourself out there. There really isn't any extra barrier for international students. You do see a lot of international students kind of sticking with each other, but there's enough that integrate um, with everyone else.
Yeah, and for a lot of international students, there's specific clubs maybe for um, their nationality or where they come from. Maybe they can, like, there's food clubs where they can go and make their food, like your national food, just so you kind of bring a piece of home with you and you feel comfortable in a new setting.
Also, Penn State's really into like global learning. That's something that they're really like implementing. So I think that kind of um, they are doing their best to integrate a lot of different cultures into our curriculum and also compare ideas and cultural norms within our different areas, like especially in healthcare. We like talk a lot about differences in medical terms and not only that, but stigmas across the globe. So I think that Penn State is super into integrating as many cultures as possible. And I like love learning about other people's ways of life, and because I've only ever lived in Pennsylvania, so it's a bit limiting at times. So it's nice to have a view outside from people that are from just such different places.
I have a couple of questions. First one being, was it a lot harder to manage your time in high school than in college in the States? And uh, for the second one, if so, why and how?
I would definitely say it's more difficult to manage time in college because in high school it's definitely more structured. You have the same day basically every day, whereas in college you can have the same class maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but you don't have the same class on Tuesday, Thursday. So it's takes a lot of adjusting, kind of figuring out what works best for you, like we said, and just figuring out how you work and how you need to like figure out if you can say yes to going out one night with your friends or if you need to take time to yourself. I think it just takes a lot of adjusting and figuring out what works best and how you can manage your time. No one's really there to tell you how to live your day or what to do each day. So it definitely takes more adjusting in college.
And that's true for me too. But it sounds like you guys are having a different high school experience than us because I was never sleepless in high school. And that's just going to be different based on where you're from. And that's not fair to say because I'm sure there are people in my position that had sleepless nights too. But I think that you really do have to learn how to manage your time before it's too late. And I don't necessarily think that it's harder, but it's different because your mom's not there to bug you about things. Your teachers don't care if you don't want to go to class. And your peers are always convincing you to do the non scholastic option. So that's annoying.
Yeah, I'd say high school probably was a little bit more difficult for me just because we did have like an 8 to 3 schedule and every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 3. So in college, it was a little more, I had like a lot more free time actually. So I found myself getting a lot more done than what I did in high school. So my experience was a little bit different.
Yeah, either way though, I would say it's exciting going to college and having that free time. Obviously, it's like a little stressful, but figuring out yourself, I'd say, is like one of the best things you can do. Obviously, for yourself. So I'd say it's not something to be scared of.
You mentioned that you sometimes have classes up to 700 plus students. How do you find time at all to go one on one with the professors? Isn't that impossible?
That's a good question. So, I guess, well, first, those big classes are usually the introductory classes. So it's kind of like the lower level classes, first year, second year, I guess. But there are other options as far as office hours. Teaching assistants are available. So office hours are basically when you can go into your professor's office and talk to them one on one, and they schedule out like a few hours. So taking advantage of those options is kind of how you get that one on one experience.
Yeah, and you can also make appointments with your professor through email. So usually they'll say, "Oh, I'm free at this time," and if you are too, then you guys can meet. So
It's shocking in a class of 700 people how few people really care. So I think that, I don't know, Dr. Naps, both of them back there, would probably tell you that their office hours are relatively empty. So just because there's 700 people doesn't mean that a fraction of them are even going to see the professor. So definitely go and just make yourself known and smile or just bring them a coffee or something. I think food is a good bribe. You guys are
Last
really good
question
though.
from our audience.
Hi, my name is Christine. There are a lot of distractions like peer pressure and internet when you're in college, right? How do you? I just want to know how do you deal with them so that they won't affect your study, and how do you motivate yourself to study?
Good last question.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I use my laptop in a lot of my classes just because of the pace at which my teachers are teaching. Some of my teachers don't use, actually, most of them don't use PowerPoints, which was a big adjustment for me. So you can't be on Facebook and like listening to like microbiology and pretend that you're doing both. So you're either paying attention or you're not paying attention. And I think that just kind of finding a way to just close down the internet, not let it bother you, or set up. Sometimes if I'm like having a bad day, I'll just be like, okay, from now until like 12:36, I'm not going to look at anything on my laptop. I'm not going to check my phone. I'm going to pay attention, and then I'll give myself 30 seconds, and then that's it. So I think that's like on worst case scenario, but it's really hard to do both. So you have to pick one.
yeah, social media and studying for me do not mix at all. So I have to like actually turn off my phone when I want to study. And there's a thing like called Power Hour that you can do. It's where you're away from your phone for an hour. You study for those 50 minutes to an hour, take like a 5-minute break, and then come back to studying again for like 10 more minutes, and or like rewrite down what you've learned in the 50 minutes, and it actually helps. So.
Yeah, to address your question about being motivated, I would say a lot of it comes from like yourself. Self motivation is huge in college. At the same time, though, it's important to find friends that will help motivate you. So I found a nice group of friends who, like kind of stay on top of each other and make sure everyone's doing their assignments. So although it comes from yourself, it can come from your friend group too. So make sure you surround yourself with some good people.
And kind of going off of that, I mean, I think it's important to also know that you can have fun with your friends. Like you can dedicate a certain amount of time to studying, but if you get that studying done, then enjoy your free time. Like don't ever feel pressured to like that you need to say yes to your friends. But I think it's good to have an outlet where you can have fun on the weekends or have fun on certain nights, and then know that you need to motivate yourself to study during the week so you can enjoy that free time later on.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're about to end our Google Hangout and start our real Hangout. Later, you'll have the time to approach our guests so you can discuss more questions face to face, as you said, social media and listening to your professor actually doesn't mix well. But before we end our Google Hangout, I'd like to invite everybody to come in front and say goodbye to our friends online. Just virtually say goodbye. But if you have more questions for our guest or for Education USA, please feel free to drop us a message, give us an email, or join our coming offline sessions, which you'll see on our Facebook page. So come in here, guys. Don't be shy. Yeah. And to our professors, please feel free to join us here online so we can all say goodbye to our Google Hangout audience.